35 minutes, something like that.
Yeah, no worries.
Cool.
Come on now. We got lost in discussion. I forgot to start it on.
Sorry, that's my fault. I got you sidetracked by asking a silly question.
Okay, mute that, and then we'll start the webinar. All right, we should be live. Yes, I can see some people starting to file in. Sorry for the delay. Michelle and Aaron and I were discussing what we're going to be talking about, and lost track of time. And I'm actually in the Pacific time zone now, so I am all time zone challenged today. So Michelle, you want to go ahead and kick us off?
Sure. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us for another great topic today. And as Dan said, we're so excited about it that we've been continuing the discussion even before we got started. We are talking today about expense claims and commerce in QuickBooks Online. So we're very glad to have you joining us for another exciting QB Power Hour. My name is Michelle Long, and I'm a CPA with an MBA in entrepreneurship. Thank you for joining us. I'm the owner of Long for Success, and very glad to have you all joining us today. It is getting chilly. The fall weather is upon us. So anyway, enough about me. That's enough. Go ahead, Dan.
Hi, everybody. Dan DeLong with Dan Witt. Used to work at Intuit for nearly 18 years. Your co-host today, also doing the co-hosting duties over at School of Bookkeeping on the workshop Wednesdays, and doing some tech editing for the QBO for Dummies series. And super glad to have Aaron joining us. Aaron, tell us a little bit about yourself, or reintroduce yourself to.
Thanks. Yeah, my name's Aaron Walsh-Dyer. I have a cloud bookkeeping practice based out of not only San Diego, California, but we're now in Prescott, Arizona, kind of bop back and forth between, well, now we're on different times now because Arizona doesn't pay. So now you have problems. So anyway, I started out as a bookkeeper, moved to the cloud, got really confused about how to get from desktop to online and start my own practice. So I started something that we call the Circle of Friends, and it's pro advisors that all just kind of have that water cooler conversation. You're working at home by yourself and you have a question, who can you go to? So that's kind of our group. And we also are just launching a certification to success course that gets you from that, hey, I'm certified in QuickBooks Online, now what do I do? So that's me, and feel free to reach out to me anytime. I love helping bookkeepers and accountants navigate all of this QuickBooks, all these goodies that Intuit gives us. So thanks for having me.
We definitely have a water cooler conversation here today about the expense claims and commerce. So I'm really glad that you could find your way to join us on such short notice.
Sure.
So appreciate you coming here. A little bit about the details about the QB Power Hour. It's every other Tuesday at 12 Eastern. And I have to adjust as I drove across the United States this past couple of weeks. I'm like, what time is it actually on? My wife was like, why are you getting ready so early? Well, it's noon Eastern, so we're on Pacific time right now. So we're not eligible for CPE. Always check the website for upcoming events. We did notice that our normal cadence of every 2 weeks, kind of now from now until the end of the year, falls on either a holiday or an event. So we do need to adjust our schedule, or maybe we'll be taking an extended hiatus until the beginning of 2023. But Michelle and I will talk about that. So check the website. Check the website for upcoming webinars and other events. There is another event for Intuit is actually holding something about, I think it's I just posted it and I can't remember what it is. It's it's one of those things. Check the website. You can always and then you can always find the handouts and other resources, the podcast, the replays at qbpowerhour.com/resources. A little bit of housekeeping. If you have specific questions about what we're talking about, please put them in the Q&A, because that allows us to follow up with them a lot easier. It captures your email address, so we can always reach out to you directly if there is something that we have to put in the parking lot. If you have general comments or concerns, or hello, I'm in Hawaii. Why are you so cold? type of things, please put those in the chat. And then, of course, we always have the handouts and the webinar archives there. I will put in the chat today's link
Handout.
here. Yes, the handouts. But our agenda today is we're not going to be talking about expense claims and commerce. We're going to be talking about expense claims, then commerce. So we'll talk about the expense claims in QBO Advanced. Erin is joining us because she developed the training material. So for expense claims. So we'll definitely be talking about that. And then we'll kind of open up the floor for the commerce confusion, right? Because there is quite a bit of confusion around this whole commerce tab that's just decided to show up in QuickBooks Online. So we'll kind of unpack that. We're still not sure 100% as to how everything. So we'll kind of talk that through. And just as another side note, Liz Scott, who's joined us with the Appy Hour and the Appy Camp that Michelle and I were able to go through, she is doing a little deeper dive into commerce as well today. So you can always look up if you don't get enough out of us today, you can certainly just continue with the commerce saga later on today.
And
so we'll start. Go ahead.
Go ahead and launch a poll, and then I'll say it.
All right. So just our general one. What version of QuickBooks are you using to support your clients? So we have a mix of QuickBooks Online, desktop, or both. Go ahead, Michelle.
Well, I just wanted to say, thank you, Liz, for working so hard on the updated content for all the new features and everything that are coming out. And thank you for letting us use these slides from the updated content. I wanted to put a plug in for all the updated content on the product training, as well as put the plug in for the VCon that's coming out at the end of the month. I posted the link to that in the QB Power Users Facebook group. There is a link in the slides and everything, but that VCon is the last week of the month. And there's the training for the core training, the advanced training, as well as payroll. And that gets you ready for those certifications and everything. So it's all the updated new content and everything that Liz and the whole team has been working on to get you all ready for all the new updated features and everything. So go check that out. And we'd love to have you join us for that VCon, that virtual conference at the end of the month. If you need CPE, that's a great way. And keep in mind, there is a payroll certification now as well as other great training out there in your ProAdvisor portal. So thanks, Liz, and the rest of the team for working on all that content.
And Erin.
I'm sorry, Erin. He mentioned Liz. I got Liz on the brain now.
I think Liz did a lot of the
Who
payroll
is she
stuff.
talking about?
You mentioned Liz.
It's going to be a fun power hour, that's for sure.
Oh goodness!
So it looks like we do have quite a bit of either both is the heaviest answer today, but also QuickBooks Online solely is also hot on the tails of both. So Erin, let's talk a little bit about managing expense claims since it's so fresh in your mind.
Yes, it is. And I think Michelle, I think Liz did a lot of the certification for payroll, but I've been on the team doing the new content for advanced, and just to clarify.
I'm sorry, Erin.
Okay. I don't want them to get confused. So yes, the slides and everything you'll see at the virtual conference, that's a lot of my work. So that's why I got pulled in on this for the expense claims. The new feature or newer feature in QuickBooks Online Advanced, which you may be confused because guess what? There's also receipt capture in QuickBooks Online, and it's very, very similar. So we want to kind of have a conversation about what it is and what's the difference. So thanks, Dan. So in QuickBooks Online Advanced exclusively, they now have in the Expenses Center another option. When you hover over this expenses, there should be another option or a tab called Expense Claims, and you can also see it on screen here. So if you click over there, it has some similarities to what we see in the Bank Feed Center for receipts, what they call receipts over there. what's the difference? Why did they do this? Is there any benefit to it? Why would I go to advanced just for this? Well, what happens with this one is we can now invite users for QuickBooks Online Advanced that are restricted to just time tracking and submitting expense claims. So this is great for if you have a subcontractor who's out there doing things for you, maybe picks up some supplies and materials, and they want to put their time in, they could, and they could also put in an expense claim. So this makes them so they don't have access to anything else in QuickBooks Online, where if you invite a user to receipts, which is in all the other editions as well, you have to use a vendor-facing user. So we don't want our subcontractors doing that. So it's just another option with Advanced. So what's also cool about it is you can filter out what categories they see. So your subcontractor may not know, they see your massive chart of accounts or your client's one. They don't know where to code that when they submit the expense. So basically, they could choose from a limited list that you set up, and it might just be for supplies or whatever, fuel, things like that. And then they have a short list to pick. And they've added something new since these screenshots were taken, and we'll show it live in product. But so basically, we're going to manage those settings. This is kind of the workflow to get to that. You go to expenses, expense claims, and then the manage settings button. This again is only in QBO Advanced. You add your users, and it does add a time tracking / expense claims user. And you send them the invitation like you would with any other user. As a matter of fact, yesterday when we were setting Dan up, I actually went to the users area to do this. So you can do this from Expense Claim Center or go to users and choose that type of user. So let's see. So then we manage the categories. And in this case, we're adding fuel, delivery, and you can see it's got a nickname, fuel, and then we choose the account on the chart of accounts, the expense account we want it to flow through. So
can you choose multiple nicknames and categories, or is it just one to one?
One to one. It's one to one.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it just makes it a lot easier for someone to understand what that is by seeing the nickname on their app side of things.
Correct.
So that they're not, so they don't necessarily see the account number and the category of or the expense inside of their app. And it's like, oh, which one do I choose?
Right, exactly. And you can even get really custom because maybe you want fuel for the business owner to be categorized separately from fuel for the other staff. So you could have a nickname, do not use, or use this if you're somebody. So you can customize it. Okay, so then you submit the expense claim, and this would be the this is the user doing it. So you submit it, fill in all the fields. So I'm the subcontractor in this case. Category, vendor name, etc. There's something additional to this that we just discovered yesterday. They've added now that I can put it to a customer project and make it billable. So this screen actually needs to be updated, at least the screenshot.
More work for yourself.
Yep, right. More work for me. So you fill all that in, and then the reason for the expense, if the subcontractor or employee wants to do that, and submit it, and then bam, it shows up in that expense claims area in QBO Advanced, where whoever's processing these requests can get started.
This is what makes it a little confusing, right? Because it looks, the term expense claims looks oddly enough like the receipts tab in the bank feed, which it does, right? That's kind of on purpose. And then I think the other part that's confusing, at least for a non-accountant layman like me, expense claims versus expense reports. Like what's the distinction between expense claims and expense reporting when it comes to business acumen?
Right, and you're talking about maybe if the person who's submitting this expense wants to be reimbursed at another time. So they're going to submit an expense report and get reimbursed by the business. So big difference. This is a one-off. Each receipt is going to have its own transaction or non-posting transaction at this point in QuickBooks Online. When this comes in, the person who's managing expenses is then going to either post it as a bill to reimburse that person, or say that person was using a corporate credit card that's on this client's books, you would just enter it as a receipt, which will turn into a credit card transaction in the credit card activity. So some people like to do expense reports maybe twice a month, turn it in and get reimbursed. Totally different. That would be just a report, and somebody would enter a bill for that and make an overall one-time check. This could be entered as a bill, but each one is a singular, and you would pick a due date. I mean, you could use it for that, but if you've got a lot of volume with this, it may not be the right choice. But
right. So somebody like, let's say, a nonprofit organization who's reimbursing some people for expenditures that they may have made on behalf of the organization would use this, or like you said, Erin, a one-off where you're reimbursing somebody for some things. But if it's a company where you have traveling salespeople that you're reimbursing every week or every month for their expenses, they probably are going to require expense reports and have an accountable plan and all of that. They're probably not going to use this because they're going to, have expense reports to be turned in and submitted and all this. Like Erin said, this is probably a one-off type of situation.
Right.
Like she said.
And there are apps that handle those big expense reports for travel really well.
Right.
So this I would go there to manage something like that a little better and approve things.
Now, Sharon in the chat brought up an interesting potential conflict, right? Like does this process, either the expense claims or the receipts function, have any potential issues with rules that you might set up inside of QuickBooks? Because we had kind of talked about this yesterday, that this is not necessarily in the bank feed, even though it is in the banking section.
Right. Well, at this moment in time, it's what I would consider a non-posting transaction. It's in here. It needs to be reviewed. So when that user reviews it, they have several choices. They could post it using this activity to the right bank or checking account, or they could create the bill. So, and the point is, okay, let's say they're posting it because it is a company credit card and a bank feed comes in. If they post it first, it's just going to match to the bank feed, right? It's just one of the credit card charges. However, if the bank feed comes in first and you process it, then this expense claim comes in. There is a possibility where expense claims at this point will look for an existing transaction. So, and unfortunately, they're calling it a match. Michelle said yesterday, should call it link it, not link the receipt to the existing transaction. Don't call it match because you're getting me all confused. But basically, yes, you could, if the bank feed was cleared first, yes, you could pull this receipt to the existing transaction.
So another, so all that work of categorizing it in the receipt itself and in here could actually be for naught if the bank rule automatically adds it, or if somebody adds it from the bank feed first.
Right. Yeah. The receipt coming in at, let's say the bank feed's process, it's gone to fuel. This receipt comes in and somebody just matches it up. All it's doing is attaching the image or the document.
Okay.
So Mary had a question about, can you split it between two different accounts? And I uploaded a receipt last night as if I were the vendor submitting an expense, and you can split that between two different categories. One thing I wasn't sure of, and Erin, I don't know if it was turned on in Larry's landscaping, if I am submitting this receipt, I wasn't sure if I could mark it billable. I could assign it to a class or a location. I saw where I could assign it to a class or a location. I didn't see where I could make it billable or not.
And that could be that it's not turned on in the site.
Yeah, I didn't know whether it was turned on or not. I wasn't sure about that, because I think when we were looking yesterday, you could mark it billable. So I don't know whether it just wasn't turned on or not.
Or maybe maybe
Wouldn't
that,
sure
maybe just the
that.
person who's the admin reviewing can mark it billable. See,
Yeah,
we're
so I'm
learning
not
this, well, you guys are, honestly.
Yeah,
It's crazy. So,
Yeah.
but we can go in there. We'll look at your receipt and see what came through. Okay, so basically, if the user paid the expense personally and they want to get reimbursed, then the person managing or reviewing the receipt would then create a bill, right? And then it's part of AP and they can pay it out whenever. If it was a debit or a credit card, they would choose receipt, and on the screen there, it's kind of to the right below where we've highlighted receipt or bill, you can choose the bank or credit card account it was drafted from or run on. And at that point, if they hit save and post it, and now it's a transaction with a receipt. If the bank feed comes in tomorrow, it should match it. And that's if things are flowing in real time. So
I guess the best practice is not to set up your rules to auto add if you're using this, because you could potentially, undo some of the work that you're having people do manually through this process, right?
That's probably a good idea. Also on the previous screen, it did show mark as billable. So it looks like on the receiving end at the bottom there, it looks like whoever's processing the receipt once it arrives is going to be making that choice. Yeah. All right.
Oops, I'm going backwards. There we go.
Okay. So here's where I got a little tripped up. Okay. So basically the next screen, when it said save and next, you think, okay, I'm done, right? I've posted that expense. Well, not necessarily. It searches for a match that is something that's already maybe been processed through the bank feeds and posted. So that's nice. So I can just, at this point, attach the receipt. In this case, it didn't find a match. And it says there's a box there that says draft expense. So that's the one we were just doing, right? We were filling it in and making sure it was coded right. So you can create that expense or search for a match if you believe it's already in here. So anyway, and then of course you create the bill or expense depending on how.
All right. Before we launch this poll, I'm going to stop sharing and lob it over to you. We'll kind of demonstrate this. So I haven't accepted my my invitation yet. So if you want to share your screen, Erin,
yes,
and then we can kind of take a look. Are you in Larry's Landscape?
I am.
Okay, so we can kind of walk through some of the things that you had talked about there.
Yes, and you guys can't see. I see you guys on screen with me. You're not seeing that, right? Zoom.
Correct.
Okay, good. All right, I'm just moving you out of the way.
And Erin, I don't know if mine's saved properly last night or not. So I'm looking at it on my mobile app now, and I'm like, whoa, that's not what I thought I did.
I did get an email that said you submitted something, so that's a good
we'll
sign.
see then. That'll be interesting. Let's see what happened.
You guys are going on the road with us in here. See what happens. Okay. All right. There's Michelle's receipt. Let me get us out of the way. Okay. So let's see what you did last night. So I'm going to review it. And obviously this it's not bank feeds, but it's similar where you go through and review everything and it's kind of listed, and there's other choices. Oh, I clicked it too soon. Oh, there's nice nail polish.
Yeah. Someone's had a manicure.
So, number one confusing thing for me is the word receipt here. For me, I would say expense, but because that's the transaction, it's going to end up being an expense, like a debit card expense or a credit card expense. But as far as the form goes, that's what it's going to post as. Or I can enter it as a bill. So do you want to get reimbursed, or was this on the card for the corporate card?
Reimburse me.
I
want money.
I want money. All right. And I think you're in here. There's Michelle, expense claims vendor. And when is this due?
Tomorrow. Pay me fast.
Okay.
No.
All right. Your employee requested reimbursements. Here's your notes. Discuss design ideas for latest project. I think this can expand out too. Yeah, that's all you said. This description, Now, did you type that in or did that the OCR?
That
get
that was what I put in for the vendor name because there wasn't a
wow.
vendor. So I tried to quick add it. I wanted to see if it would add the
Yeah,
vendor name or whatever. But see, and that's where it's weird. I'm the vendor
right.
for
Because
the
it's a bill.
company, but I, instead of the name of the vendor where I went was Marina 27. So it put that in the description for the
You mind if I
payee.
toggle this and see if it puts Marina 27 in the on the receipt side, if it puts it in the vendor name?
That's
I've
fine.
never tested it, so. No,
Nope. nuh-uh.
didn't. Okay, just checking. All right, so that's interesting for those who are processing these. Watch out for that. And were you able to choose a category?
I was, but I left it blank because I had like fuel and something else. And I was wanting to put it to meals. So I left it blank to see what it would do. I wanted to see if it went into uncategorized. And
No,
it didn't. It just left it blank.
yeah, because at this point it's non-posting. It's not hitting the general ledger. Okay.
So that was interesting. I just wanted to see what it would do if I didn't do anything. And it just leaves it blank.
And you didn't have this option.
No,
Not sure.
I didn't see that. I could have
Okay.
overlooked it, but I didn't see it. And
Okay.
I was looking around because you can see I chose a class and I think I chose a location. Yeah, there's a
Mhm.
location too.
Mhm.
But I didn't see that. So it must be the admin person that has to choose that.
Right. And then
Unless I just was not paying close attention.
okay. Well, it's good. I mean, we'll just keep playing with it, but at this point, that's what I'm going to assume.
And I
And
did do
then-
it on the mobile app. Somebody was asking if you could do that on the mobile app.
Mhm.
I uploaded the receipt and did this on the mobile app.
Okay, and then you could split it. They call it lines,
Yeah.
adding lines. I'll get rid of that one. I think that's about it.
The only thing, when you toggled it, it did wipe out the payee. So
Oh.
you have to put back,
Oh,
go ahead and
Michelle.
reselect,
Oh, yeah.
reselect Michelle again.
Thank you. It wouldn't let me save it, right? I would have
Yeah,
been
it-
stuck.
QuickBooks would have reminded you that you.
Sure would have. Okay, and look, I like that I was able to resize and rotate. I don't know if you remember when receipt capture first came in, you had no control over sizing here, and it was really hard to see some of these receipts sometimes.
Mhm.
So, okay. Any other questions before we move on?
No, I think what we want to do now is I
Mhm.
didn't do my, I didn't accept my invitation. So I wanted to kind of look at that process with accepting the
Okay.
invitation or the users.
Do you want to, so I'll stop sharing?
We'll go ahead and go into where you went to invite me, and then
Okay,
just so that
sure
we can
thing.
show that.
So by the way, this is that screen that was on the slides. No matches found. Here's the draft bill we just did. And then I can save it. So I didn't save it just then. So that's there's an extra step there and again, if I wanted to find a match, I could do that. So I'll just create Michelle's bill. And okay, so we were going to talk about users now. So it's in settings, inside expense claims, manage employees. You're there. Did you accept? You didn't. Yeah.
No, I didn't accept it yet, but that's where you would go to
Mhm.
to add a new user, or you can
Mhm.
click on edit users.
Yeah.
And then that will allow you to re-invite me, or those types of things. So
Right. And this is a type of user in QuickBooks Online Advanced, time and submit expense claims.
Right.
So it jumped me there.
So
and
because
pretty
it's
simple.
and because it's a time user, they don't take away your allotted 25 users that you have, right?
Right.
Even though it adds this additional function to
Mhm.
to that user.
Which is kind of nice. Yeah.
Yeah, because you can certainly add get up to your 25 allotted users pretty quickly if it did.
Absolutely. So here's where Michelle got locked up last night, manage categories, because I only had fuel and
Right.
delivery. So what were you looking for?
I was looking for meals or
Yeah.
entertainment.
I'll just put meals. Oh, we don't even have that. Yeah, do I have to set it up? It won't. I don't
Just
think I
put
can
it.
set up from here.
Just put it to something else. It doesn't matter.
Our favorite miscellaneous.
There you go. that works. Office supplies.
Exactly. It didn't look like I could add a new one.
At the very
That's
top,
interesting.
there was not add new.
I don't think so.
Huh, isn't that interesting? Feedback, everybody.
Yep. Just
Feedback.
run your feedback.
Okay,
You
save
know
that
what?
and
Here's more feedback.
What?
So when I come in now to the app today, I'm having a hard time finding where I can add an expense claim. I can see where I can do an expense. So I need to go through there and see if I can make it an expense claim.
Interesting.
You know, so if I just go through and do an expense, will that allow it to be an expense claim? Because if I try to say, how did I pay for it with a credit? Like if it's my own credit card, it's
Mhm.
wanting me to choose a company credit card. But what if it's
Yeah.
my personal credit card? So I need to do a little more playing around with this.
With the app, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I should get some screenshots with the app's experience in those presentations for advanced.
I'll go
training.
through and do some for you and send them to
Oh,
you.
thank you. Takes a
And then
takes a
there's that
village,
new
guys.
option,
Yeah.
there of managing who can see the expense claim.
Oh, sorry, was that back
What
in
was
here?
that? Managing the use what info employees can submit. I misunderstood what it was
Yeah.
said there, but that's what you were talking about. That this is brand
Oh,
new
there you
that we
go.
discovered yesterday. You
Mhm.
can toggle on those additional fields.
Right. So that's why you were able to see class and the customer name. So it could be that you want those users not to even see any of that and let the person processing the expense figure it out.
All right, and then I'm going to
Okay.
supersede your sharing.
I'm taking over. Okay.
Taking over.
Thank you.
Let's
Mhm.
see.
Oh, no
Here.
problem.
So we do need to keep
That's-
sending Intuit our feedback though. As we're working with this, as you all are working with this, we need to be sending our feedback to Intuit about these things.
Exactly. So this is the email that I got from Aaron yesterday about accepting the invite. So I'm just going to tap on it. This is my phone, so nobody's sending me weird texts or anything, please. Oh my goodness, this is terrible to see on the phone.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so there's.
Don't you just need to sign in at the top?
Yeah, wait.
Don't you just need to sign in?
There we go. Okay,
Yeah.
so that is the. If we already have an account, you click here. There's my accept my invitation.
What are you using to share your phone? What app?
It's in Zoom actually. Zoom allows you to
Really?
share your phone as long as it's plugged in, or you do it with AirPlay. You know, if you're
Oh, right.
using Mac products or whatever. I got to go back here. Hang on a second, because it assumed that my login was my email address, which it's not.
Got it.
To the dot password. And code.
I had a client ask me yesterday, why do they keep sending me codes? I go, it's security. Don't put it in your stuff. She was like annoyed with it. I'm like, it's just keeping the baddies out. Just
That's right.
deal with it. And it's usually only if you change computers or it's something new
Mm-hmm.
for the most part.
Now this is actually going, as you can see at the top,
Mm.
it's going to the mobile friendly site. So not necessarily needing to go into the app to do that. But Michelle, you were saying that you can see it in the app, like when you go to the QuickBooks app.
Well, I was going back into the QuickBooks app today to try to see, okay, like if I want to go back in and do it now, what's it going to look like? And so now when I log back in, I'm in like the full app. So that's why I'm wondering what it's like today. Anyway, this is what I saw.
Time users don't use the app; they use the mobile version of the website.
This is what I saw last night when I went in, like you are. So I'll be interested to see when you log out and you go back in, what do you see? So we'll have to do some more testing.
Well, yeah, because we haven't even talked about commerce yet. So
I know. So we'll have to keep testing and playing with the claims.
I can stay for a couple of minutes of commerce, but I gotta jump out for another commitment. So
All right. Well, let's
But
go
I'll
ahead
do it.
and,
Well,
and
thank
launch our
you, Erin.
next,
We appreciate that.
yeah, no
launch
problem.
our second. How many clients do you have that have that have employees or vendors that submit expenses? So we just want to get an understanding of how how you find that if this is useful, potentially for your clients inside of QuickBooks Online.
And Sharon did make a comment in there about there can be conflicts in some states, she said something about being careful of bank rules, where they might have a bank rule that's going to assign it to a certain category or something. But somebody said something about in a certain state, being careful about having a contractor uploading receipts where it could make them look like employees. So you do want to be careful not to blur the lines between vendors or subcontractors, employees. So you do want to be careful of that. But it could be nice, if you have a vendor working for you or a subcontractor and you need to reimburse them for some materials or supplies that you ask them to pick up, or, a lot of times even in restaurants, and things like that, you run out of milk or bread or something and you ask them to run to the store to buy something for them, and you need to do paid outs or something instead of doing it out of the drawer, maybe you do it this way,
The other thing you could do is if you know that there's going to be fuel charges on this business credit card that you want expense claims to be filling out and not the bank rule, you can have it not categorized. That's one of the rules you can do, leave uncategorized. For
Good
those
point,
types
Erin.
of for those vendors.
Yeah.
And that way then the expense claims thing will kick through.
Yeah, that's a good one.
All
right. So let's
Okay.
let's go ahead and unpack this. I'm going to end the poll here and share the results so people can see just how many of the people that are joining us here, how that spreads across here. But let's talk a little bit about the commerce, and we're going to talk about the word commerce because that is the new advanced. This is going to turn into a little bit of a who's on first skit, I think, because when we talk about commerce, there is a tab inside of QuickBooks that says commerce. But if anybody's been paying attention to what QuickBooks has or Intuit has been doing, they acquired a company called they acquired two different companies, and that's what's going to ultimately fall into the word commerce here today. So TradeGecko was a company that they acquired a couple years ago, and under much fanfare of in a QB Connect. I think it was one of the virtual ones that they were having. They announced this QuickBooks Commerce. They were rebranding TradeGecko and turning it into QuickBooks Commerce. But now we're seeing this commerce section, and that's not TradeGecko. that's not QB Commerce. So I think if you take one thing away from this conversation, the distinction between QB Commerce and commerce in QB are really what we're trying to kind of unpack here. So I did put a little link there between the difference between the two. There's an article about e-commerce accounting, which is what the commerce in QuickBooks, which was an acquisition that they made before TradeGecko for OneSAS. OneSAS was a connector that brings in e-commerce or online sales channels into QuickBooks, and that's what's turning into commerce, if that makes sense. So we're just going to try to talk a little bit about the TradeGecko, right? So look at all the things that you can do in QuickBooks Commerce, right? The back ordering, batch entry transactions, inventory control, price lists. That is not commerce, as it's going to sit inside of QuickBooks. But you access your QuickBooks Commerce from the Commerce tab inside of QuickBooks. So that's where it gets super confusing. And Erin or Michelle, do you have any thoughts about that? Before we move on from this, this area?
I just real quick, Michelle, you know how T-Sheets now launches from inside, time in QuickBooks. It's really taking you out to an app. right? So if your client is using QuickBooks Commerce, formerly TradeGecko, they're going out. They're
Right.
out in another application, although they can access it from the Commerce tab on the left navigation. So that would be my one takeaway, because the other one is inside the Bank Center. So it's different, but that would be my takeaway. I'm leaving QuickBooks at this point when I click it.
Right.
Yeah, that's a good distinction.
You're right. So this is a full like third-party app, basically, like Aaron was saying, that you're launching from within QuickBooks. But Dan, what about that disclaimer down at the bottom? If you don't have it already, you won't be able to get it. But what if I want it?
Right. Well, you can't get it, right? So I'm going to click on some of these links in the slides. Actually, will take you to. You can see it's the TradeGecko plate. Oh wow, I can't even get to. I can't even get to. What ultimately happens is it just reverts you to the QuickBooks Commerce section on the QuickBooks page, which now talks about the commerce. Right.
Hey team, guess what? I gotta go.
Oh,
Okay.
thank you,
Sorry.
Aaron.
I
We
would've-
appreciate it.
I would have loved
That's
to have
okay.
this conversation. but
I
I'll
know,
stay
and
here.
we'll share some of your thoughts as well. But thank you,
Okay.
Aaron. We appreciate
All
it.
right. Bye. Have a good session.
Bye. Thank you.
Yeah, everybody.
So if people
right.
want to use the TradeGecko app that Intuit purchased, if they want to use that, can they, and how can they?
If you go into this area here, where is wow, this page
Is it that link that you posted that shows the difference?
Yeah, no, it does not. Where is it now? I had it somewhere. I can't remember where it is. I have it in here. So there's a little demo video that we put about connecting the QuickBooks Commerce accounting. We're not going to watch that today. Connecting there's different ways to connect a sales channel. Right now, you can only get 3 different sales channels. So right now it's Shopify, eBay, and Amazon.
Right.
In the commerce connector.
But
All right,
this
so here it is.
But this is different from the TradeGecko thing that you were just talking about.
Exactly. So here's a frequently asked question here. So what's the status of QuickBooks Commerce, right? So, and this is on the main page there, frequently asked questions in the QuickBooks, e-commerce accounting commerce section. So QuickBooks Commerce is no longer available for purchase. So if you had QuickBooks Commerce, or if you are a previous subscriber to TradeGecko, which then was rebranded to QuickBooks Commerce, you can still access it. If it's tied to your QuickBooks company, your QuickBooks Online company, you will access it from Commerce on the left navigation bar. But you can't connect or sign up for QuickBooks Commerce, not yet anyway. So I don't know what the future lies for the TradeGecko folks of the world, or the QuickBooks Commerce, but as it is today, it's no longer available for purchase as a standalone product. But they continue to invest in the development and growth of the commerce accounting capabilities, and those are going to feed into the commerce section. So that's the idea. So right now you can only access 3 sales channels. Right now it's Amazon, eBay, and Shopify. And then each sales channel has its availability to bring in historical information. So Shopify, you can go back 12 months. eBay, eBay and Amazon 90 days. So what accounting for e-commerce is, it's designed to simplify the accounting side of things. And Michelle, you're on some council or feedback area about this. You want to talk a little bit about what you saw?
Well, yeah, it's kind of like a team or a community where we're giving feedback to them and all that, and really what it is it's kind of like a feed, if you will, like the bank feeds bringing those transactions in. This is a feed bringing in the transactions for the sales from these 3 channels. And, as with anything, they'll probably be adding additional channels in the future, but it's bringing the sales in from these channels along with the fees associated with it. So if you want to go back up a couple slides, you can show them where it's living, and you can go out there and see this now. It should be out there. Go back down just one, go down one more. Yeah, right there. If you go out there on your left-hand navigation bar, you'll see commerce, and you can go out there and you can see this where you can go connect one of these 3 channels. And actually it depends on which version you have. I believe it's 1 channel with Simple Start, 3 with Essentials.
Yep.
There it is, and Unlimited with Plus and Advanced, where you can connect these channels and start pulling in the transactions so that you can pull in the orders, you can pull in the fees, and you can pull in the paid outs, so that you can get your net proceeds from this. And Dan, did you want to do a little demo or no? Because it's a client.
Yeah, I'm trying to sign in here on my other screen, which it's of course now. This is the challenge of doing something live. Is this?
So yeah, so we've been working with them, and that they're working on this, and it's going to keep getting better and better and everything. And I love that you have a dashboard, and you can get you can see like your sales per channel and things like this, which is wonderful and everything. And you can see the paid out, so it takes the fees out. So it does simplify getting the revenue and the cash and everything recorded into QuickBooks. The big piece that's missing is the accounting for the inventory and the cost of goods sold. So if you're selling on eBay or you're selling on Amazon or Shopify, you're missing accounting for your inventory and your cost of goods sold there. So you're missing that whole piece of the accounting process there. And one of the other things that kind of bothers me is right here in the upper left corner, you're going to see net revenue per channel. That's a misnomer for us as accounting professionals. Net revenue would be after cost of goods sold. This is not net revenue. This is really net proceeds, because it's sales minus those fees associated with the sales, the fees from eBay, let's say, or the fees from Amazon or from Shopify, minus the selling fees. So it's actually net proceeds. And I would like to see that renamed net proceeds, because it's not net revenue.
Right.
It has, and so that's just it's one of those things that bothers me as an accountant. So I would like to see.
That's why they have this feedback right here, right on the homepage, so that you can provide that feedback for them. So we should have a flood of Michelle said feedback.
Well, we ran out of time on the call yesterday. I put that in, but it was at the very end of our session yesterday. So I put my idea out there to change it to net proceeds, but we ran out of time. So anyway,
Gotcha.
But they do a great job of pulling this information in here and getting those transactions. So Dan, go ahead and show us how it's looking.
So you have, it's broken into three areas. You have your overview, which gives you those dashboard widgets, which are not customizable. You can really just let's go back to the overview. In this particular case, we have 2 different sales channels connected. Just for transparency, he's not actively selling on Amazon, so we're not going to see orders and those types of things show up in the orders tab for Amazon. But we will see a payout for Amazon because he's paying the subscription fee for Amazon. And this, of course, taking a while to actually show this stuff. So you're going to have your areas here for net revenue, which Michelle's already explained her problem with the determining net revenue, but you're going to see your orders for sales channel. You do have the drop down of seeing different date ranges, and then it's going to list your top selling products. So in orders, when you go look at orders, it is going to download and show from those sales channels what was actually what was ordered from those various sales channels. It is important to note, though, that these orders don't show up in QuickBooks until they've been paid out, right? So as it's not the sales channel bringing in the sale into QuickBooks through some kind of clearing account, and then the payout then offsetting that minus the fees. But Michelle, you were saying there's actually 3 transactions at play here when that happens, right?
Right. So the order comes in, and it's actually a non-posting account as an order. So that order comes in and it doesn't actually post as sales at this point. So you have the order, you have the expense, and then you have the paid out, which is the deposit. So it comes through as 3 transactions. And so the sales order, the order comes in and it goes into a clearing account, and the deposit also hits a clearing account. So it's kind of like undeposited funds before it goes into the bank account. When it goes into the bank account, then it actually posts. So there'll be 3 transactions with it: the order, the expense, and the paid out. So there's 3 transactions with each sale that you actually have. Does that make sense? Yeah. Does that make sense? I got, yeah, I'm like, whoa, it went to full screen me, and I did not like that, Dan.
Sorry.
It was a shock.
All right.
But they are working on it, and they are taking feedback and everything. And somebody did point out that it's bringing in one item. It's not bringing in every item that you sell. So if you want like your top selling items, you would log into that app like Shopify to see what are your top selling items and things like that. It's bringing in one item over into QuickBooks. You don't need all of those details in QuickBooks. You can go get your reports on the items sold and details like that over in Shopify or in Amazon or something. It's just pulling over one item over here. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, let's take a look at some of the settings that you can have. Once you have connected the sales channel, you're going to see the settings available from that here, and you can go through there's several sections. As far as the general section, you can choose to have it automatically show up or to manually. I would prefer, at least at first, do it manually until you understand the cadence of what's actually happening here. You are going to have the sales. You can map it to an inventory item, right? So in this guy's case, he sells one thing, and that's his inventory item that he sells online. So this actually does align pretty well with that. I have yet to see the sale as it comes in when it gets posted, what that actually looks like. But I am assuming, and this is probably a leap of faith assumption, but this is going to look like what the Square connector or the PayPal connector is going to look like when those types of things come in, because it behaves very similar to those types of apps. Those are the Intuit based apps that will connect and bring those things in. So I can choose, the item to the sales item of which to use. In this case, it is an inventory item. So my hope is that when those sales actually do get posted with a payout, that those receipts that are part of that will deduct from inventory, will recognize the cost of goods sold at that time. However, that's based off of when it was paid out, not necessarily when it was sold, right? So if there is a delay in that, right? Like if I sell it on Monday and it doesn't post until the payout hits on Wednesday through Thursday, or God forbid it's over the weekend and there's a holiday in there, right? So that doesn't give me an accurate inventory management for that one item that I'm actually managing it to. So typically a lot of people will just put a sales item of some sort. That's typically what Square or PayPal would do, and then your inventory management you're handling somewhere else, because normally you're going to have more than one listing.
Yes, and that is a key point, Dan. The inventory is typically handled elsewhere outside of QuickBooks. As we know, QuickBooks Online inventory is not its strong capability. And Patty also had a question about the sales tax. Where does that show up? The sales tax is also handled in these third-party apps, because you're calculating sales tax on each individual sale. So when you're importing it into QuickBooks, they're pulling over the sales tax on that one sale, and you're just posting the total sale in QuickBooks. So you're not using the sales tax feature in QuickBooks. You're calculating the sales tax that was collected and posting it to a liability account outside of the sales tax feature in QuickBooks. So you're allowing the third-party app to calculate the sales taxes and everything for you. Does that make sense?
And in that article that we posted in the slides, that kind of talks about the difference between QuickBooks Commerce and e-commerce accounting. So when we talk about, the commerce connector that we're referring to, you can see, or we saw from the sales, that the build to or ship to address aren't included on the orders. So as you know, with sales tax and Nexus and online e-commerce sales, that's going to be dependent on where those sales take place. And so the sales channel is going to be handling the collecting of the sales tax. It will come over because it was now, part of the sale, right? Part of the monies that is actually transmitted, but the allocation, the knowing which jurisdiction needs to be collected by that's going to be outside of QuickBooks at this point. It will just have the total amount come through, but as far as where you pay it is not going to be where QuickBooks is going to help you with that.
And Dan, I have an aha moment.
Oh,
okay. So you know how it's so confusing between commerce and e-commerce accounting and which is which, and it's like so confusing. So it just like the light bulb just went off for
we have
for
a
me
dawning moment.
with my okay. E-commerce accounting. All we're doing is we're really just accounting for what's going on over here. All of the details is taking place over here. We're just trying to account for it in QuickBooks for our general ledger so that we can get the cash in the bank account so that we can pay our sales taxes and not go to jail, right? So we just want to be able to reconcile our bank account, get our things recorded over here. All the details and the reports that we need to see our sales by our most profitable items and all those details, that's taking place where the sales are taking place. So all of those details are managed where you're doing your sales. Whether it's in the Shopify app or whatever, that detail is in that third-party app. We're really just getting the details into QuickBooks so that we can reconcile our bank account, we can pay our sales taxes, things like that. So the e-commerce accounting is bringing in the minimum details. It's not bringing in all the items. It's not bringing in every customer. It's not bringing in every bit of inventory. And it's just bringing in the basics on the sales taxes so you can pay them. So if you kind of think about it that way, it does help you keep the differences. The QuickBooks Commerce is the detailed third-party app. Right. E-commerce is bringing in details from a third-party app.
Exactly.
Does that help?
And yeah, and I think that does draw the distinction as to what you do where. I think one of the key elements here is in evaluating whether or not this is if we want to connect, a client to the e-commerce accounting, is what tasks do you do inside of QuickBooks today, right? Because they may be null and void, right? If you're processing your sales tax returns and using QuickBooks to help you, do that sort of stuff, just bearing in mind that by connecting these things is going to make it a lot more challenging, because those e-commerce accounting transactions are not going to have, where they were sold, who they're sold to, and the tax that was collected. It's just going to lump it in into a generic, sales tax liability account that may or may not help you with other processes that happen after that. So I did want to show.
I was just going to answer Sonia's question
Uh-huh.
in the chat. Sorry, I was typing and I wasn't listening. She said that there's minimal reports in these platforms, still a problem with COGS and inventory. You're right. With eBay and Amazon and stuff, you still have a problem with managing the inventory and cost of goods sold. So if you have a client that's doing a lot of e-commerce sales, they may need a more powerful third-party app, and they may need something more powerful to help them manage inventory and cost of goods sold and assist them to help them manage and track inventory and cost of goods sold and shipments and returns and all of these things. Yes, they may need some kind of third-party app and system to help them to manage all that stuff. That's why they're turning to you as the accounting professional. And yeah, that is a big pain point when it comes to people who are selling on some of these channels, if you will. Sorry, go ahead, Dan.
That's okay. I know we're running a little bit over, and we should probably have somebody from the QuickBooks Commerce come on, and really take a little deeper dive. But here you can see in the advanced, how you can allocate those different line items to, and there is a section here for sales tax based on region, right? But it's only going to go to one,
Yes.
to one particular line item that's going to go on the sales receipt once it does get ordered.
Right.
So it's not going to necessarily, you're not going to get a lot of the, you're excluding some of the functionality that's native to QuickBooks Online when it comes to sales tax because of how these transactions are going to come in. So there's a lot to unpack here, but I think the key takeaway is, what lies in this commerce tab on the left side is going to depend on what they already have, right? So if they already had the QB Commerce or the TradeGecko app, it will be accessible from here. But what will happen is they'll open up into another tab, and then they'll be in the QB Commerce area. Everybody else is going to be getting this option. Now, the good news is it's free, right? I mean, or it's included, it's included in your subscription, and you can attach, as many as you need to. But just bear in mind, when you do attach a sales channel like that, what's going to happen, and what potentially could be undone, or what workflows would be impacted inside of your QuickBooks if you have that working relationship working really well already. What you do inside of QuickBooks, adding this may cause some challenges when you're doing that. So hopefully that helped.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's really important, Dan. And thank you for doing this, because I think for us as accounting professionals, understanding that when you go to a client, you may see different things when you click on that commerce tab is important for us. So we're not like, whoa, what is that? So I think that's important. So thank you, Dan. And I think the idea that Intuit is helping us, because for years we've had people saying, how do I deal with the eBay sales? How do I deal with the Amazon sales? So I think the fact that Intuit is trying to help us account for those sales and account for the fees and do all this, Intuit is listening to us, and they're hearing us say, we need to account for these sales and the fees and all this, and can you help us? So Intuit is working on this. Intuit is trying to help us. They do need our feedback, so continue to send them our feedback. And they are trying to help us to do this and make it better. So keep sending them the feedback. And Dan, this has been a confusing area, so thank you for bringing it to light and helping to enlighten us and alleviate some of the confusion and everything.
Yeah, and hopefully it's not a who's on first skit between you and your client. It's maybe between you and your colleagues as we talk around the water cooler, and continuing the conversation in the Facebook group, or outside of your client's eyes. But we'll figure it out.
Yep.
All right. So we are running a little over, so we appreciate you joining us here today. And we'll just stay in my keep tuned to the website for upcoming power hours. I am meeting with Bookkeep later on today, so we may have a new Bookkeep power hour before the end of the year. If not, we'll see you in 2023.
And Dan just froze. So thank you, everybody. He's back now. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Dan, for all your good work. Thank you, Aaron, for joining us earlier today. And hope to see you on the next VCon, as well as hope to see you on the next Power Hour, as well as the VCon at the end of the month. If we don't see you